The clock on the wall says 3 o'clock. So, good afternoon and welcome to the opening performance of the American Wind Band's 36th concert season, titled Paving the Way. A tribute to the music educators who inspire members of the American Wind Band to continue their pursuit of musical excellence into the present. Nonetheless, in a little over a week, the American public will complete the 2024 election, a reminder of what Abraham Lincoln so eloquently and succinctly noted as a sacred duty in a democracy whose government is defined as by the people, for the people, and of the people. So, to remind ourselves of this hallowed obligation and to celebrate our participation in maintaining the will of the people in their self-governance, please direct your attention to the American flag. Rise if you are able, place your hand over your heart if you wish, salute if you're a veteran, and join in singing as the American Wind Band performs the Star-Spangled Banner. The catalog of Soviet composer Sergei Prokofieff's works includes symphonies, operas, ballets, film scores, concertos, piano sonatas, choral works, and chamber music. The world's most prominent orchestras have many times recorded his Romeo and Juliet and Cinderella ballets, the musical narrative Peter and the Wolf, as well as his 7 symphonies, to name just a few of his most well-respected compositions. It is entirely fitting, therefore, that a composer of Prokofieff's stature and prolific output should also turn his attention to the band theme. He wrote March, Opus 99, in the middle of World War II, and the piece received its premiere performance on a radio broadcast conducted by Major Petrov, the leading bandmaster of the Soviet Union in 1943. This lively march premiered in the United States under the baton of renowned composer and conductor Serge Koussevitzky with the U.S. Combat Infantry Band in 1945. Here to jumpstart our concert is a graduate of the Indiana University School of Music, the University of Bologna Graduate School of Music, presently the orchestra director at Pleasantdale School District 107 in Burr Ridge, and music director of the American Wind Band, Maestro Julie Ciarni, with Prokofieff's fast-paced March, Opus 99. Percy Aldridge Grainger was an Australian-born composer, arranger, and virtuoso pianist who became an American citizen in 1918. In the course of a long and innovative career, he played a prominent role in the revival of British folk music in the early 20th century. Much of his work was experimental. For example, he recorded British folk music from its original source, the country folk who sang in the fields and local village pubs, on wax discs, and arranged them without changing the sometimes erratic tempos and harmonies. One of the most colorful and enigmatic characters in the panoply of 20th century Western composers, Grainger married his wife Ella before 20,000 people in the Hollywood Bowl, was a devout vegetarian who hated vegetables, and his approach to marital bliss was somewhat beyond the pale. His love for his mother was ever present in his mind, and Molly on the Shore was written originally in 1907 as a birthday present to her. It is an arrangement of two contrasting Irish reels or dances, Temple Hill and Molly on the Shore. In 1920, he rearranged the piece for concert band. However, the dedication on that piece is to Edvard Grieg, the famous Norwegian composer who recognized Grainger's talent as a pianist, and not to his mother. Again, one of Grainger's inexplicable eccentricities. Now, Julie Ciarni and the American Wind Band with Grainger's Molly on the Shore. you're curious to know what I meant by his approach to marital bliss that was somewhat beyond the pale, it's kind of out of line with biography. There's a great book by Tom Slattery called Percy Grainger, which you can get probably in your local library. It's an extension of his dissertation when he was at the University of Iowa, and it will explain to you in graphic detail to what I was referring to. Anyway, here we go. Billed in 1964 as, quote, a film for all the young lovers of the world, unquote. Les Pas Pluies de Cherbourg, or The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, is a 1964 musical romantic drama written and directed by Jacques Demy, with music by Michel LeGrand. Catherine Deneuve and Nino Castelnuovo star as two young lovers in the French city of Cherbourg, separated by the French colonial war in Algeria. The ending, in particular, is a great heart-tugger. The film's dialogue is entirely sung, almost like an opera, and in 2018, a BBC Cultural Critics poll ranked the film in the top 100 greatest non-English films of all time. Michel Legrand's film score is unforgettable in its ability to elicit in the viewer the sense of undying love, but inevitable heartache suffered by Genevieve and Guy, the lovers in question. John Warrington's arrangement of Legrand's melodies includes I Will Wait For You, Watch What Happens, and The Day They Close the Carousel. Here to bring you a parasol to protect you from the lover's tears. He's a graduate of the DePaul University School of Music, the Northern Illinois University Graduate School of Education, distinguished music educator in Chicago public and private schools, as well as founder and now associate director of the American Wind Band, Mr. Vincent J. Furman, with LeGrand's music from The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Always have to raise the speed.
Or lower the podium.
We might get more for that reason.
Although all our works presented today come from the minds of musical groundbreakers, we now reach the moment that plays directly to the theme for today's concert, Paving the Way. Crown Imperial is an orchestral march by Sir William Walton, commissioned for the 1937 coronation of King George VI in Westminster Abbey, the inspiration of which stems from the speech in Shakespeare's Henry IV. It is in Edward Elgar's pomp and circumstance tradition, and the work has been heard at subsequent state occasions in the Abbey, such as the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953, Prince William's wedding in 2011, and the coronation of Charles III in 2023. Today, however, Maestro Furman put together a visual display of composers, teachers, and musicians who most influenced the lives of our band members, with a brisk opening contrasting a broad middle section leading to a resounding conclusion. Crown Imperial is a fitting homage to the American Wind Band, to the many people who are responsible for the musicians you hear from the American Wind Band every year. Your supplemental program, like this, describes each of these people so that you can understand their place in the hearts and minds of our band members. So, to process our way to intermission is Vince Furman, the American Wind Band, and a salute to our beloved teachers with W.J. Duthoit's 1937 arrangement of William Walton's Crown Imperial. One of the things that we do when we come back from intermission is mention the new members in the band to recognize them for joining us since our last performance. So first I'd like to have stand Jacqueline Jellison Landis on oboe. Elise PQ on clarinet. And Ravon Riley on euphonium. Our next concert will be Sunday, December 8th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the Hinsdale South High School Auditorium. It'll be our holiday concert, which is always a lot of fun. So make sure you tell your friends, bring any of your family that aren't here today to our concert on December 8th, 3 p.m. at the Hinsdale South High School Auditorium. And then also, while you're looking at the program, don't forget our sponsors who are so gracious in helping support the printing of the program and help subvent the band's costs. And also the donors to the band. And we start that list every year, so this is a new list. It's called our 2024-2025 donors. And also the special thanks, especially to the First United Methodist Church of Downers Grove. That's where we rehearse every Tuesday night in the gymnasium in the basement. And they've been absolutely wonderful to let us use the facility. But all the rest of these organizations have been very helpful too. All right. Welcome back. Donald Irving Moore was born in the small town of Farnhamville in Iowa in 1910. After earning degrees from Carleton College and the University of Northern Colorado, Moore directed high school bands in Iowa, Colorado, New York, and Texas. Eventually, Moore settled in Texas and became professor of music and director emeritus of bands at Baylor University from 1948 to 1969. During which time he became nationally recognized as a composer, conductor, clinician, and adjudicator of bands throughout the United States. Among his many published compositions, Moore wrote 35 marches, including Accolade, a march for concert band. This march was commissioned by the Halstead High School Band of Kansas to commemorate the retirement of Orvin Coleman, who served as director of the Halstead High School Band from 1965 to 1987, and as principal of the school from 1987 to 1996. Accolade highlights all the sections of the modern concert band and is an exercise in what is known as 6/8 time, or 6/8 notes to each bar. Here to begin the second half of our concert today, and as part of our tribute to those who paved the way, is Maestro Furman, the American Wind Band, and Donald I. Moore's Accolade. After they tune. Although that march is so loud, you won't know if they're in tune or out of tune. quirky little melody. Alfred Friedman, better known as Alfred Reed, was an American neoclassical composer of more than 200 published works for band, orchestra, chorus, and chamber ensemble. After serving with the 529th U.S. Army Air Force Corps during World War II, he worked as staff composer and arranger for both NBC and ABC networks. Upon earning 2 degrees from Baylor University, he became conductor of the Baylor Symphony Orchestra and later professor at the University of Miami School of Music, while being sought after as a guest conductor internationally. His second suite for band was commissioned by the Sterling, Illinois High School Wind Ensemble and was premiered by that group under Reed's direction in 1979. Although all the melodies in the suite are originally Reed's, the first movement, Son Montuno, is based on a rhythm closely associated with the calypso that seems to have its origins in Cuba. The second movement, Tango, is based on a less frequently heard Brazilian interpretation, which is slower, smoother, and dreamier than the more familiar Argentinian version. The third movement, Guaracha, is a rollicking Argentinian drinking song, and the fourth movement, Paso Doble, is built on rhythms associated with a dance or march, and is Mexican in origin, reminiscent of a brilliant parade to the bull ring on a festival day. Here to send you to Latin America is Maestro Ciarni and Alfred Reed's second suite for band. too many pieces of paper. Hungarian-born Joseph Kosma was a relative of the Chicago Symphony's legendary music director Georg Solti, and he studied with composer Bela Bartok at the Liszt Academy in Budapest. After studying in Berlin, Kosma returned to Hungary only to flee that pro-Nazi government in 1933, settling in France where he met Jacques Prévert. Placed under house arrest by the Nazis in Paris, Kosma still composed for films with the help of Prévert and with other composers fronting for him. At war's end, Kosma wrote Holo Levelek, or Falling Leaves, encapsulating the feelings of despair in war-ravaged Europe as people struggled to make sense of the destruction of civilization that had been left to them. With French lyrics by Prévert, the tune took on the title of Les Feuilles Mortes, or The Dead Leaves, for the 1946 film Les Portes de Nuit. In 1947, Johnny Mercer wrote the English lyrics, and the title became Autumn Leaves. Still very popular amongst jazz musicians, Autumn Leaves has been recorded by an incredible list of local artists ranging from Yves Montand and Barbara Streisand to Willie Nelson. So, close your eyes, envision the colors of fall and the pathos of autumn, as Vince Furman and the American Wind Band bring us Alfred Reed's haunting arrangement of Kosma's Autumn Leaves. especially for female composers and directors when women were few and far between in the field of band and orchestra music. Actually, progress in that area still lags woefully behind. She lived from 1867 to 1957 and has been called the female Susan. Leading an all-women's band from 1898 to 1912, she had an extremely successful career at a time when women were discouraged from any such public activities. Her best-known group, Helen May Butler and her Ladies Military Band, was a favorite of President Theodore Roosevelt, and one of her compositions, Cosmopolitan America March, was selected as the official march of Roosevelt's 1904 election campaign. Dedicated to her father, Lucius Marshall Butler, a railroad engineer who was instrumental in the design of the Pullman car, this march is cosmopolitan in feel, containing snippets of melodies from around the world, but definitely American in design. Here to close our program, featuring those who paved the way as composers, performers, conductors, and teachers, is Maestra Ciani with Butler